And it doesn't feel very realistic to me at this point because of the trappings of fame. A couple of them were from people that were embedded most likely in the culture of plural marriage.
The nerve of this guy just reached a whole new level. Kody Brown sat down for an interview with Access Hollywood in 2025 and made what could be the most out-of-touch comment in the entire history of Sister Wives. And trust me, that's really saying something when you think about all the ridiculous things we've heard from this man over more than 10 years of watching the show. He stared directly at that camera and actually said he's become too well known for genuine romance. Too well known. This is Kody Brown. We're talking about the same guy whose own spouses were practically running for the exits to get away from him. Now, he's somehow convinced himself that women are only interested in him because he's on television. Let me break down exactly what happened during this interview.
Robin and I are married, we're lovers, we have a great relationship and everything like that, and getting attention.
Kody went on to explain that various women have been contacting him, apparently wanting to become part of his quickly falling apart family. But rather than seeing this as regular human attraction, he's convinced himself that these women can't possibly have real feelings for him. In Kody's mind, being on television has made it completely impossible for him to believe anyone could actually care about him for who he really island. He described the attention from women as risky and threatening, acting like he's some sort of magnetic movie star trying to avoid photographers. In reality, he's just a guy from a reality show whose own family fell apart right there on camera for everyone to see.
With me going to Special Forces, in a way was like if I could, a phoenix metaphor. I wanted to burn my old self down.
Okay, a new era.
A new era, and rise again.
Here's the kicker. This is the same guy who spent years emotionally ignoring his wives, and now he's suddenly concerned that women might have the wrong motives for wanting him. He talked about how both he and Robin have had women reach out to them about their way of life, but he refuses to believe any of it could be real because he thinks being famous has ruined his chances of finding honest love. He actually laughed about forwarding one woman's email to Robin, treating it like some kind of comedy routine. It's as if the thought of someone genuinely liking him is so ridiculous that he's turned it into entertainment.
Vulnerability. I'm naturally vulnerable, and she loves that about me. And so I lay my burdens at her feet, and she is sweet about it.
This is coming from the exact same guy whose wives begged him for years just to get some basic love and care. The very same man who openly admitted on television that he was never attracted to Christine right from the start of their marriage. The same person who emotionally abandoned multiple relationships while his wives were busy raising his kids and taking care of his homes, but all of a sudden, he's worried about whether romantic feelings are real or not. The timing of all this is absolutely incredible. Right when Christine Brown has discovered true joy with her new husband, David Woolley, right when she's happier than we ever witnessed during her 27 years with Cody, here he is claiming that being on television has destroyed his chances at finding real love. You couldn't ask for a more obvious difference, and it says everything you need to know. But this is where the story gets really interesting, and it's something that any woman who's ever felt taken for granted in a relationship will immediately understand.
That I needed to apologize.
I was going to ask about that because I saw that you offered up some apologies. What was that experience like, and why was that the move that you wanted to make?
It was a very hard experience because these people that I'm apologizing to are still very mad.
Christine didn't just quietly walk away from this guy. She actually wrote a whole book spelling out exactly what her life with Cody was really like. And what she revealed makes his current worries about fame look absolutely silly. Christine's book, Becoming Sister Wives, dropped like a bombshell right in the middle of Cody's celebrity fantasy. The things she shared make his complaints about women only being interested in his television status sound completely absurd. Because here's what Christine actually documented about their marriage. There was never any genuine love or attraction from the beginning. Zero. Right from day one. Think about this scenario that Christine bravely shared with everyone. On her wedding night, the night that should have started their spiritual life together, Cody looked his new wife straight in the face and told her he wasn't attracted to her. Not later on, not sometimes, not even a tiny bit. He admitted right from the start that he felt no physical or emotional pull toward her at all. This woman spent her wedding night hearing that the man she'd promised her life to felt absolutely nothing for her except religious duty. Christine wrote that their entire marriage was based on obligation, not love. While other couples were figuring out how to build closeness and connection, Christine was trying to earn basic affection from a man who'd already decided she wasn't worth it. She wrote about years and years of being ignored, feeling unwanted, hoping things might get better if she just tried harder, loved more, gave more of herself. This woman spent 27 years in a marriage where she was flat out told she wasn't attractive, where love was handed out like it was running out, where her husband's attention felt like a special favor instead of something normal. She raised his kids, ran his house, appeared on his reality show, and smiled at family events while knowing her own husband found her completely unappealing. And now, this same guy is worried that women might not want him for real reasons. The man who couldn't even fake being attracted to his own wife is now concerned about whether other people's feelings for him are genuine. You honestly couldn't make this stuff up. Christine's book doesn't just talk about one bad marriage. It shows a pattern of emotional games that makes his current fame complaints look like just another way to avoid taking blame. Every time something went wrong in their relationship, somehow it was Christine's fault. Every time she needed more attention or love, she was asking for too much. Every time she said she was unhappy, she wasn't being grateful enough for what he gave her. But the most heartbreaking thing Christine revealed in her book wasn't about their romantic relationship at all. It was about the moment she realized Kody's neglect went beyond her to affect their children. And that's when everything shifted. Let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture here. Because Kody's "I'm too famous for real love" excuse fits perfectly into a pattern that's been going on for decades, one that Christine and the other sister wives have been pointing out for years. This isn't just about one ridiculous interview. This is about a man who has never, not even once, taken the blame for his failed relationships. When Meri and Kody's marriage fell apart, it was because Meri was too needy, too emotional, too hard to please. When Janelle became distant and businesslike with him, it was because she wasn't romantic enough, wasn't giving him what he needed as a husband. When Christine finally left after 27 years of trying to earn his love, it was because she wasn't dedicated enough to plural marriage. See the pattern? Every single relationship that failed gets blamed on the woman, never on Kody's actions. Now, we're seeing the exact same playbook with this fame excuse. Women are showing interest in him, which should be encouraging and maybe even promising for someone whose family just publicly fell apart. But instead of seeing this as a chance for real connection, he's already decided these women couldn't possibly want him for genuine reasons. It's not that he's emotionally unavailable, controlling, or has shown a pattern of treating wives badly on national television for over 10 years. No, the problem is that he's just too famous and appealing for real love to be possible. This blame-shifting trick does several things for Kody. First, it protects his ego from having to look at why 3 out of 4 wives decided to leave him. Second, it makes him the victim of his own success, instead of the person who caused his own relationship disasters. Third, it lets him avoid the scary part of actually trying to connect with someone new because he's already decided it can't work. But here's what makes this particular excuse so revealing. Kody isn't A-list famous. He's not even B-list famous. He's reality television famous, which means people know him specifically because they've watched his relationships crash and burn spectacularly. They've seen him favor one wife over the others, ignore his kids, and handle problems with the emotional maturity of a teenager throwing a fit. If women are still interested after watching all of that happen publicly, wouldn't that suggest they might actually see something worth pursuing? Instead, Kody has decided that his small-time celebrity status makes him undateable, which is convenient because it means he never has to risk being vulnerable, never has to work on his issues, never has to face the possibility that he might get rejected for real reasons instead of shallow ones. Meanwhile, Christine was writing about the real breaking point that finally gave her the strength to walk away from this pattern of blame and excuses forever. The moment that broke Christine's willingness to accept Kody's excuses didn't happen in their bedroom or during one of their relationship talks. It happened when their daughter truly got seriously sick. And Kody's reaction showed Christine everything she needed to know about his priorities and his character. Christine wrote about this turning point with the clarity of a woman who had finally seen enough, truly was having severe health problems, the kind that need immediate parental attention and support. This was Christine's baby, sick and needing her father's care and presence. And where was Kody during this crisis? Emotionally absent, physically missing, treating his daughter's health emergency like an annoying interruption to his schedule, instead of the family priority it should have been. Christine watched the man she'd spent decades trying to please fail at the most basic job of being a father, showing up when your child needs you. That's when something clicked for Christine. She'd spent 27 years making excuses for Kody's behavior, accepting his explanations for why he couldn't love her the way she deserved, convincing herself that plural marriage meant settling for leftover attention and affection. But watching him neglect their sick child crossed a line that even Christine's incredible patience couldn't handle. In her book and later interviews, Christine talked about the emotional abuse that had become so normal she barely noticed it anymore. Cody would withhold love as punishment, make her feel grateful for basic consideration, and convince her that her needs for love and attention were unreasonable in plural marriage. He'd created a system where Christine constantly had to earn what should have been freely given, where her value as a wife was always dependent on perfectly following his constantly changing rules. Christine wrote about years of walking on eggshells, trying to guess Cody's moods, competing with sister wives for basic acknowledgement from their shared husband. She described how exhausting it was to love someone who treated your love like a burden instead of a gift. She wrote about conversations where Cody made her feel selfish for wanting more time, more affection, more consideration in their relationship. But maybe most devastatingly, Christine revealed that she'd spent years believing Cody's explanations for why their marriage felt so empty. He convinced her that spiritual marriage meant sacrifice, that her unhappiness was a character flaw, that real wives in plural families learned to be happy with whatever attention they got. She'd absorbed his blame shifting so completely that she questioned her own reality. The woman who's now standing up to Cody's fame delusions spent decades being told her feelings were wrong, her needs were too much, and her unhappiness was her own fault. Understanding that background makes her current confidence and clarity feel even more powerful. Fast forward to Christine's life after Cody, and the change is so dramatic it reads like a fairy tale, except it's completely real and happening right now on social media for everyone to see. In 2023, Christine married David Woolley, and the difference in her energy is so obvious it's like watching someone wake up after decades of sleepwalking through their own life. The Christine we see now absolutely glows. There's no other way to describe it. Her social media posts show a woman who's found laughter, again, spontaneity, and real joy. She's traveling. She's playful with her husband. She's confident in ways we never saw during 27 years of marriage to Cody. Fans constantly comment that she looks younger, happier, more alive than she ever did on Sister Wives. It's the kind of change that happens when someone finally stops apologizing for taking up space in their own life. David Woolley treats Christine like she's precious, like her happiness matters, like her thoughts and feelings are worth hearing and considering. He posts about her with real affection and pride. He includes her in decisions, supports her relationship with her children, and shows up for her consistently. It's everything Christine described wanting from Cody, but never receiving. And now she has it with someone who seems as happy about her presence as she is about his. The difference between Christine's current marriage and her descriptions of life with Cody couldn't be more dramatic. Where Cody withheld affection, David is generous with it. Where Cody made her compete for attention, David makes her feel like his priority. Where Cody blamed her for relationship problems, David seems to approach challenges as a team effort. Christine went from begging for crumbs to being served a full feast of genuine partnership. And here's what makes this transformation particularly relevant to Cody's fame excuse. Christine found this love immediately after leaving him. She didn't need to work through years of therapy. Didn't need to completely reinvent herself, didn't need to overcome major personal obstacles. She simply needed to get away from someone who couldn't love her properly and find someone who could. How quickly she found happiness suggests the problem was never Christine's worthiness or ability to love. The problem was Cody. Christine has also become more direct in interviews about Cody's patterns of avoiding blame and making everything someone else's fault. She's called out his inability to take responsibility for relationship failures, his habit of making every problem someone else's fault, and his talent for making his wives feel grateful for the bare minimum. The woman who once protected his reputation and made excuses for his behavior now speaks with the clarity of someone who's seen the difference between real love and manipulative control. While Cody's out here claiming fame makes real love impossible, Christine's living proof that real love was always possible. She just needed to find someone capable of offering it. The internet's reaction to Cody's "I'm too famous for real love" statement has been quick, harsh, and absolutely hilarious. Social media exploded with responses that ranged from confused laughter to outright mockery, because apparently the viewing audience has been watching a very different show than the one Cody thinks he's starring in. Twitter users immediately started posting side-by-side comparisons of Cody's fame claims versus his actual reality television presence. They're sharing clips of his most embarrassing moments, his worst relationship failures, and his most delusional statements, asking exactly what kind of fame he thinks he's achieved. The general consensus seems to be that if this is what passes for too famous, then most people would prefer obscurity. Facebook groups dedicated to sister wives discussion have been having an absolute field day with this revelation. Women in these groups are sharing their own experiences with men who blame outside circumstances for their inability to maintain relationships. And they're recognizing Kody's excuse as a classic way to avoid taking responsibility. They're calling out the nerve of a man whose marriages failed on national television, now claiming that his minor celebrity status prevents real connections. But here's where the fan response gets particularly interesting. They're pointing out that Christine has become significantly more popular and beloved than Kody ever was. Her social media engagement is higher, her fan support is more genuine, and her storyline has more people invested. If anyone in the Brown family has achieved the kind of fame that might complicate dating, it would be Christine, not Kody. Yet, she managed to find authentic love almost immediately after leaving him. Instagram comments on Kody's posts and interviews have become a masterclass in collective eye-rolling. Fans are sharing screenshots of his fame claims alongside photos of Christine's obvious happiness with David, creating these perfect before and after comparisons that tell the real story. They're noting that Christine found love with someone who has no connection to reality television, someone who wanted her for exactly who she is rather than her connection to a failing television show. The Sister Wives subreddit has been particularly brutal, with users creating memes about Kody's fame that highlight just how delusional this excuse really island. They're sharing statistics about the show's declining ratings, the family's reduced cultural relevance, and the fact that most people associate the Brown name with relationship dysfunction, rather than aspirational lifestyle choices. TikTok creators are making reaction videos that break down the psychology behind Kody's excuse, explaining how this type of blame shifting protects someone from having to examine their own behavior or take responsibility for relationship patterns. They're educating viewers about the difference between someone who can't find love because of outside circumstances versus someone who creates their own obstacles to avoid vulnerability and accountability. The cosmic irony of this entire situation is so perfect, it feels like the universe has a sense of humor. Here's Kody Brown claiming that fame has made authentic love impossible for him, while his ex-wife Christine is out here living her absolute best life with a man who couldn't care less about reality television drama. The timing couldn't be more poetic if a screenwriter had crafted it specifically to highlight the absurdity of Kody's excuses. Let's examine what actually happened here. Christine left Kody after decades of trying to earn his love and attention. Within months of that separation becoming final, she met David Woolley through completely normal circumstances. Not through the show, or because of her television connection. David fell for Christine the person, not Christine the reality television personality. He wanted her for her laugh, her kindness with her children, her strength, her capacity for joy once she was free to express it naturally. David didn't slide into her DMs because she was famous. He didn't pursue her because he wanted to be part of a television storyline or gain access to celebrity circles. He met her, got to know her as an individual human being, and decided she was exactly who he wanted to build a life with. It's the kind of authentic connection that Kody claims is impossible in his current famous circumstances. Meanwhile, Kody's sitting in interviews explaining that women's interest in him feels dangerous and unrealistic because they might be motivated by his celebrity status. The man who spent years making his wives feel like their love was burdensome is now worried that new women might not love him for pure enough reasons. He's created this perfect catch-22 where he can't trust anyone's affection because he's convinced himself that his minor fame has corrupted every possible romantic interaction. But here's what makes this irony even more delicious. Christine has significantly more genuine fan support and social media engagement than Kody does. If anyone in this family has achieved the kind of popularity that might attract people with ulterior motives, it would be her. Yet, she navigated that landscape successfully and found authentic love with someone who has zero interest in being part of her public life. Christine's relationship with David proves that real love absolutely can exist for someone connected to reality television. The key is being emotionally available, genuinely attractive as a person, and capable of reciprocating the kind of love you hope to receive. Christine demonstrated all of those qualities once she was free from a relationship that had trained her to hide them. Kody's fame excuse becomes even more transparent when you consider that Christine's dating pool theoretically included all the same risks he's describing. She could have attracted people interested in her television connection, her financial situation, or her social media following. Instead, she found someone who makes her laugh, supports her relationship with her children, and treats her like a priority rather than an option. Let's pause for a moment and talk about what we're really witnessing here, because Kody's behavior offers a masterclass in emotional manipulation tactics that every woman should recognize. This isn't just reality. Television drama, these are patterns that show up in relationships across every socioeconomic level, every age group, and every community. Understanding these red flags could save someone years of questioning their own worth. Red flag number 1 is preemptive blame shifting. Watch how Kody sets up his fame excuse before any relationship even begins. He's already decided that if future romantic connections don't work out, it won't be because of his behavior, his emotional availability, or his demonstrated patterns. It'll be because women only wanted him for superficial reasons. This creates a no-win situation where he gets to avoid accountability no matter what happens. If you've ever dated someone who seemed to have an excuse ready before problems even developed, you've encountered this tactic. Red flag number 2 is the vulnerability shield. Kody's fame concerns protect him from having to risk genuine emotional intimacy. If he's convinced that authentic love is impossible due to his circumstances, he never has to be vulnerable, never has to work on his relationship skills, never has to face the possibility of rejection based on his actual personality and behavior. Men who create elaborate explanations for why they can't fully commit or be emotionally present are often using these stories to avoid the scarier prospect of actually trying and potentially failing. Red flag number 3 is the pattern of making partners feel responsible for relationship problems while positioning themselves as victims of circumstances beyond their control. Christine spent decades believing she wasn't loving enough, wasn't supportive enough, wasn't grateful enough for the life Kody provided. Now he's setting up his next potential partners to believe they're not authentic enough, not pure enough in their motivations, not capable of loving him for the right reasons. Here's what healthy relationship thinking looks like as a contrast. When Christine met David, she didn't spend months analyzing his motivations or testing his authenticity. She paid attention to how he treated her, how he made her feel, and whether his actions matched his words. She trusted her own ability to recognize genuine affection and reciprocate it. She didn't need elaborate theories about why love might be impossible. She just needed someone capable of offering real love. The most empowering lesson from Christine's story might be recognizing how quickly life can change once you stop accepting explanations that make you feel small. Christine didn't need years of recovery from her marriage to Kody. She needed distance from someone who had trained her to question her own worth and lovability. Christine's story has become a rallying cry for women across social media platforms, and the response reveals just how many people have lived through similar experiences of being made to feel unworthy of basic love and respect. The comments on her posts, the messages in Sister Wives discussion groups, and the reaction videos on TikTok all tell variations of the same story. Women recognizing their own experiences in Christine's journey from self-doubt to self-advocacy. Women are sharing their own stories of relationships where they were told their needs were too much, their expectations were unrealistic, their unhappiness was their own responsibility to fix. They're talking about partners who had elaborate explanations for why they couldn't provide basic affection, consistency, or consideration. They're recognizing the pattern of being made to feel grateful for the bare minimum while simultaneously being blamed for wanting more. The Facebook groups dedicated to sister wives have become unofficial support networks where women discuss the difference between someone who can't love you properly and someone who chooses not to. They're breaking down the distinction between legitimate relationship challenges and manipulative deflection tactics. They're sharing resources about emotional abuse, love bombing, and the cycle of blame that keeps people trapped in unfulfilling relationships. What's particularly powerful is watching women realize they're not alone in having accepted treatment that they now recognize as unacceptable. Christine's transformation has given them permission to examine their own relationships with fresh eyes. They're asking themselves the questions Christine eventually learned to ask. Why am I working so hard to earn something that should be freely given? Why am I accepting explanations that make me feel like the problem? What would it feel like to be with someone who actually wanted to be with me? Instagram comments on Christine's posts have become celebrations of women choosing themselves. They're sharing photos of their own glow-ups after leaving unfulfilling relationships, their own stories of finding partners who treat them with genuine care and respect. They're creating a community around the revolutionary idea that you don't have to convince someone to love you properly. The younger women following this storyline are getting an education in red flags and healthy relationship patterns that could save them years of settling for less than they deserve. They're seeing what it looks like when someone chooses their own happiness over maintaining a facade, when someone decides their peace is worth more than other people's comfort with their situation. Christine has become proof that it's never too late to change your life, never too late to demand what you deserve, never too late to walk away from someone who makes you feel small. Her story resonates because it's ultimately about reclaiming power that was always yours but that someone convinced you to hand over. So here we stand, watching the most beautiful kind of justice unfold in real time. Kody Brown sits in interviews claiming he's too famous for authentic love, while Christine Brown lives every single day as walking, breathing proof that he's absolutely wrong. She didn't need to overcome fame obstacles or navigate celebrity complications. She just needed to get away from someone incapable of loving her and find someone who could. Christine's entire existence has become the ultimate response to Kody's excuses. While he's crafting elaborate theories about why relationships are impossible for him, she's posting photos of genuine happiness with a man who treats her like she's exactly what he's been looking for his whole life. While Kody explains why women can't possibly want him for authentic reasons, Christine is living with someone who wanted her so completely that he couldn't wait to marry her. The contrast writes itself. Kody claims women approach him because of fame, and that makes their interest suspicious and dangerous. Christine found love with someone who has zero interest in being part of her public life, but every interest in being part of her private world. Kody worries that his celebrity status corrupts romantic connections. Christine proved that genuine people see past your public circumstances to who you actually are when the cameras stop rolling. But perhaps the most devastating aspect of this whole situation is what Christine's happiness reveals about their original marriage. Her transformation after leaving Kody isn't just about finding new love. It's about rediscovering who she was before someone convinced her she wasn't worth loving properly. The woman glowing in photos with David Woolley was always there, just buried under decades of being made to feel grateful for scraps. Christine's story has become a masterclass in the difference between someone who can't find love due to circumstances and someone who creates obstacles to avoid the vulnerability love requires. She walked away from a man who made her question her own worth and immediately attracted someone who celebrates that worth daily. She didn't need to work on herself, lower her standards, or accept less than she deserved. She needed to raise her standards and find someone capable of meeting them. Every photo Christine posts, every interview where she talks about feeling valued and cherished, every moment of obvious contentment becomes an indirect response to Kody's fame excuse. She's not arguing with his logic or engaging in public debates about his character. She's simply living a life that makes his explanations look ridiculous by comparison. The Sister Wives community, the fans, the women who found inspiration in Christine's journey, they all understand what's really happening here. This isn't about fame complicating love. This is about someone finally refusing to accept explanations that make them feel small, choosing their own happiness, and discovering that real love was always possible. They just needed to stop asking for it from someone fundamentally incapable of providing it. What do you think? Will Kody eventually run out of excuses for why happiness seems impossible for him, while his ex-wife makes it look effortless? And which moment in Christine's transformation has you cheering the loudest for her courage to choose herself? Don't forget to tap like, hit subscribe, and keep those notifications on. A fresh video is already queued up, and something tells me the next round of Sister Wives drama will be even juicier than the last.